Ohio State definitely has a talent to beat Penn State this weekend.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Feel Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Simply visit FanDuel.com to get started. During today's show, my guy Jeff Hunt is with us once again. He is the host of the Jeff Needs Sports Podcast, a part of the OG3 at the Off the Ball Network. There's one guy I wanted to talk to. There's a couple guys, actually, that I want to have on the show, but I thought Penn State. I thought about a guy that lives in Ohio to talk about this game, and it's my guy, Jeff Hunt. Jeff, there's one thing I think that we both believe, and it's that Ohio State has a talent to win this game.
Oh, they 100% do. I mean, that's the one thing that we've showed. I mean, it's been I won't even use the word disappointing season, but it's been a season that we're all kind of, Buckeye fans were on pins and needles. Like, okay, when are we going to see it? When are we going to see it? And then we've seen sparks across the board, whether it's the freshman phenoms, whether it's the veterans, whether it's the new guys from the transfer portal. We've seen each one of them at their best, and so we know that their best is good enough to play with and against anybody in the country. But what we haven't quite saw yet, a little bit of an Oregon game, is it all come together and that all play that way at once, and we know how dominant they can possibly be if it all comes together at once. And so we're all still waiting as a group, as a unit, as a team. Let's see. We've listened for years about the recruits coming in, got it. We listened about the transfer portal guys, got them. All the guys stayed that we wanted to stay. Okay, got them. Now, when are we going to see the recipe come complete and get the full dish, or will we? I think that's the question that is lingering over Buckeye Nation right now is, are we ever going to see the team that we believe we had in let's say July?
Well, here's the good thing, Jeff, is that if there's a time for that team to show up and to show their true colors, it's now. I mean, we could be negative about this thing, start the show and be a doomsday person to say, oh, Ohio State has no shot. That'd be a straight up lie if somebody said Ohio State doesn't have a shot. Fully healthy, I think Ohio State could roll in there and really control the game start to finish. I mean, losing issues on the offensive line, got some stuff on defense. Fully healthy, though, I mean, this team has shown on the road in Oregon, yeah, it's going to be tough to win out there, but we have what it takes. Literally, if a couple things go different, even with some of the other issues that happen, I'm not going to take away some of the calls. If a couple things go different, Ohio State walks out of there with the win. Like, it's that simple. If even the final drive of the game, if things were done just slightly different, Ohio State rolls out of there with the win, and we're talking about it. We're having a different conversation before this game. And the thing that makes me happy about this game, Jeff, is that it's coming after the Nebraska game. And as people that know sports very well, the one thing you want to do after a game, maybe you win it, but you don't have the best performance. You want to get back out there and show everybody that was a fluke. That's not who you are. That's not real. This is what we're going to do going forward, and that is bring our best. And Ohio State definitely has the talent to bring their best. And I do believe, Jeff, Ohio State's best beats Penn State's best, which should make Ohio State fans happy.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Like I think we have the edge. I think we have the edge at at most positions. I mean, definitely not offensive line, and that's just saying offensive line. For Ohio State right now is in a bit of a scramble mode. Because of injuries and what have you. It's not even really as much lack of preparedness or skill or anything. It's just like really sometimes just unfortunate things happen through a season. Losing your left tackle is crippling, for an offensive line when they're going into the meat of their schedule. So like that's a real thing to deal with. Those are real things to deal with. As far as like the attitude, the enthusiasm, all these things that fans, we kind of, I think the biggest complaint versus Nebraska game was like, where's the energy? Yeah. Where's the focus? Where's the rallying point? Where's the, when are you going to step on a team's neck? Like, where are all these things? Like, against Oregon, we kind of forgave it. I mean, my biggest problem with the Oregon game, not to rehash, you've already done the shows, is when they were up 6 and got the ball, that's when you win a football game. Like, I'm not as worried about the final drive. That is what it is. They tried, no blame there. It's when you're up 6 and can win the game. And I totally believe with a field goal, you win that game.
Yeah.
Nebraska was the same way. Like, when are we going to put an inferior team away? When are we not going to punt? And when is it going to look like your team is like, okay, we're over this. It's time for us to flex a little bit. Great game, up and comers, but this is the real Ohio State. And when we never saw that last week, and they basically just kind of lucked out, and Raiola isn't quite ready to win that game, and they got away with one, we all watched it the same way. And that's the concern, is like, can they come out with the energy that it's going to take to beat Penn State at home? My biggest concern was like, you appeared to be a little bit rattled in Oregon. Let me tell you, Penn State's going to be ready too. I know it's at noon. It might be a good thing. But I think we're just all looking for that killer instinct, and the energy, and the things like that. Even a little bit of pushing and shoving, no fighting or anything like that, but just a little bit of angriness. Is this team going to be angry this weekend? Is this team going to be insulted? Is this team going to play for pride? All these intangible things. Like, we've got the tangibles.
Mm-hmm.
We know we've got the tangibles. Howard's been better than expected. Jeremiah Smith's been better than expected. And that's saying a lot for guys like that. Judkins is better than expected. Henderson's played good. But across the board, defense started coming around last week. But when are we going to see the intangibles show up that you need to win in games like this and stop the narrative that you're soft or that you're not ready? Like, that's what we're waiting to see, is those things. And if they show up, they'll roll Penn State. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
If the attitude shows up, they're way more skilled team than Penn State. But we have to see it first to believe that we can see it again.
One thing that you talked about is guys kind of playing with the fire and kind of playing with a little bit more energy. And I hate having to do this once again.
Yeah.
But there are 2 newcomers. You mentioned one there, Jeremiah Smith. The other one's on defense, Caleb Downs. And I think those 2 guys, specifically, one on offense, one on defense, they can light a fire under everybody. Now, if I'm a 4th or 5th year guy and I need to get a fire lit under me because from a true freshman, that's a problem. The good thing is that true freshman is so good, you don't want to let him down. Yeah. You don't want to let your brother down. Y'all been going to battle every single week. Y'all went through workouts all off season for 9-10 months. Y'all been grinding every single day, preparing yourself for this game. And if he goes out there and has one of those games, because we've already seen over the past few years, Ohio State's receivers can go to Happy Valley and do a lot of great things. I think a couple of years ago, Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe he had 10 catches and all of them were for first downs. So you already know, like, yeah, Penn State's going to have some guys that are going to get drafted in the first and second round at corner. Ohio State's receivers are better. Jeremiah Smith also fits in that category of being a receiver that's better than anything Penn State's going to throw at him. So you got Jeremiah Smith. And Caleb Downs is another one, because we've heard a lot about Penn State's tight end. I think his name's Tyler Warren, and how good he is and how much they utilize him. If Ransom's back, man, they can disguise so many different things coverage-wise with him. And also Downs, with him being at last line of defense, we saw it a week ago. Homie literally saved a couple touchdowns. Yeah. Being that last line of defense. And if guys on defense, Jack Sawyer or Tuimaloloau or any of these other guys that need somebody to kind of look to get a pep, some of the light of fire under them, Caleb Downs is that guy, man. And I think that SEC mentality that he still has, once that gets into every player all game long, and you see 4 full quarters of Ohio State's defense when they're not on the field for 35 minutes like they were a week ago, which kind of annoyed me that they had to do that to win the game. But, man, it's going to be so much fun to watch. Yeah. And I'm getting more excited thinking about the game because, Smith and Downs can torch Penn State tomorrow, man. It makes me happy to realize they're wearing the scarlet and gray and they're not on the other side. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an ongoing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called FanFuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with the 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide.
Yeah, I would say there's a bright point going into this week, and you touched on a bunch of it right there. The defense started kind of figuring out who they were a little bit last week. Now, I don't think the calls and stuff, the coaching in the second half was perfect, but I thought the way the game started out, being aggressive, getting your athletes out there, bringing confusing them a little bit, showing them a few things at the line of scrimmage that me and Jay have been begging for it feels like years now. Honestly, those things look great. I thought Simon played one of his best games as a Buckeye, as far as aggressiveness and things like that. The styles, both styles actually,
they both look good.
Starting to figure it out a little bit. Downs is a dog. Burke, Burke is who he is at this point. He's a tough guy. He's a feisty guy. He's a smart player. Lacks a little bit of speed. We know who Burke is at this point. That doesn't mean he's bad. It just we know who he is. Unfortunately, the Oregon game exposed that a little bit, but he's still a quality player. Matthews, Igmanosa, like the talent started showing up on defense, and then all of a sudden the offense. Okay, well now we're going to punt. That defense played well enough for a route, and yet, and again, this defense isn't built to play these close games, which concerns me a little in Penn State. Again, they're built to choke people out when they need to score, and they played at that level, and then now we're punting on offense. But I'm very encouraged by how the defense did. I thought a lot of the guys that I wanted to see step up showed a spark, showed a little, a little boogaloo in their step. Like I was really honestly satisfied with the progression. Oregon is what Oregon is. I think Ohio State, as far as the season is standing where I thought they would, in the summer. One tough loss to Oregon, but with the potential still to win a title. But they've in that Nebraska game, really put a bit of a bump in the road. But I thought the defense encouraging. I think the offense, as far as what I see, I'm sorry, like trying to establish runs is just not going to happen right now. This isn't the offensive line for it. I think Howard has earned the right to sling it. Like I do not think that they can beat Penn State if they're like, okay, we're going to establish the run and keep a balanced attack. It just takes too long, just like it did versus Nebraska. It's time to go. You got NFL receivers, probably 3 or 4 on this team. Tate's been playing great. I mean, so like it's time to just go. Howard has proven that he can make the throws, make good decisions. He can get out of trouble. He hasn't made a ton of dumb mistakes for a quarterback. I think it's time to go and let's go CJ Stroud mode and shoot this thing out and then figure it out after that. Figure it out the next week. Maybe we'll worry about established run. This isn't the week to try and prove that you can be a balanced attack. Get Judkins in the screen game. I'm not saying these guys don't need to be on the field. I thought the play of the game was a game-winning touchdown last week by using Quinshawn in a different way, but it was huge because he's a great football player. Like, hey, we can't get you a hole in the offensive line, but we're going to get you the ball. So like that's got to be the mode going into this week. It may be a lopsided offense, but if you're going to win, that's how you're going to win.
Jeff, there's one thing with this team, and it's with the coaches. You talk about some things that Ohio State needs to do offensively, go to the receivers a little bit more, not try to force the run when you think you need to establish it. Are you satisfied with the way the coaches have kind of maneuvered the past few weeks?
No, not at all. I think that it feels like they're trying to push something that can't happen. They're trying to adjust an offensive line on the fly, but also stick with a philosophy, and keep it a certain way. And it's just not working. They haven't adjusted the play calling to help the offensive line. They just keep hoping that they can put a square peg in a round hole and hope it works. And again, that's putting too much pressure on the offensive line. Like there's with Chip Kelly's attack, the offensive line do a lot. Even if they're selling, they might be run blocking on pass plays, pass blocking on run plays, all these things that they have to do. It's not a straight up zone scheme or anything like that. Now you're moving guys around and you're trying to call the same plays, and it's leaving gaps. It's leaving, unblocked defenders. And Penn State's just not the team to do that. I don't think they've adjusted very well to the hiccups in the road and leaned on their talent. We complained about that years ago, but at some point, like you still have to win games. And I think it definitely almost cost them last week. And I would hope this week they would go with like whatever works. Like, as much as we complained about the McCord Harrison offense last year, there were times where like, hey, that's the only way we're going to win this game. Like, we are not going to win this game if we try to use a balanced attack. And they won the game. It was tough to watch, but sometimes like you just got to do it. you just gotta go with that and then make adjustments. But the adjustments haven't been great. And again, I blame a lot of the emotion on coaching. I blame a lot of the preparedness. Like if you have 2 weeks after that, all I heard was for 2 weeks is like, well, that's a bitter win, man. They're going to come out mad. Well, they didn't come out mad. They didn't come out extra ready for Nebraska. They came out, looking like they, just rolled out of bed. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, why weren't they ready to, destroy a team? That's what I keep saying this. Like, I keep having this argument with everybody that keeps telling me to calm down about this. Players want to be coached. Players have the talent. They put in the work. They're the ones lifting the weights. They're the ones running, miles and miles and miles of sprints and doing all this crazy stuff. They're the ones in the film room. They're doing all the actually physically hard mental preparedness work. They want to be coached. They want to be told like, okay, I've got all the tools to do whatever you need me to do, coach, but I can't coordinate the other, 10 guys around me. So you tell me what to do, put me in the right position and I will help you succeed. And the coaches aren't doing that. They just aren't, they aren't putting the players in the best position that they can for their talent level to win games. So that's why, I try to explain to people, that's why, like when we're hard on the players, sometimes what I'm really saying is the coach is not putting you in the best position to win a ball. We said about JTT for 3 years now. He may not be as good as we thought he was going to be right at this point, but he's also not put in a position to use his skills like we think he could. And that goes for a lot of players on this team, including Judkins, including, Smith, even at some point. Like, put the guys in a position and let them help you win a game. And they just really, really, really dropped the ball in the Nebraska game last week. So like, again, this week, just, man, let these guys cook. Just let them cook.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Jeff, there's one thing when it's talking about letting the guys cook that Ohio State should do. And it's something you and I have talked about. I don't know if it's been on a show or off of a show. And it's with the Buckeyes offense. I said all offseason, Chip Kelly should have Judkins and Henderson on the field at the same time. I guess should be almost a no-brainer. I'm not saying they both got to be in the backfield and an old school split back set. Put them both on the field at the same time. Yeah. And if you want to throw a wrinkle at Penn State D coordinator Tom Allen, put TreVeyon Henderson in the slot. Now, the issue with that is you got to help the left side of the offensive line. Yeah. So do you want to go three receivers, Henderson and Judkins? You're basically saying the left side of your line is going to be a liability. All Penn State has to do is find the right guy to put there at that time and then come and try to pursue Will Howard. Yeah. But this is a game. If you want to show you something you really haven't shown all year, give me Henderson, give me Judkins on the field at the same time. You can move Henderson back and forth to try to help Will Howard figure out what the pre-snap read is, and then go ahead and move that thing. Also, something I think is more of an urban. That's also an Urban Meyer thing more than a Ryan Day thing to put a true running back type of guy in your slot and then let him go ahead and make things shake. I heard Urban Meyer say this week that Ohio State should do a little gap left, gap right, zone left, zone right, and try to simplify the run schemes to help the offensive line, since it is kind of like your third or fourth or fifth kind of option there. He also said he would run the quarterback 15 to 20 times, and I'm thinking, Will Howard's not JT Barrett. However, maybe a JT Barrett game plan might be what Ohio State needs. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous to run him 15 to 20 times when he needs to throw the ball to our guys on the outside. I don't want to be like, do it, but also realizing that may not be the best thing for him. But if a JT Barrett type game plan, using Henderson in the slot and put Judkins back there and then run to the quarterback literally 15 to 20 times. I mean, I remember what JT Barrett did in 2017. The fourth quarter, I saw those numbers. He was 19 for 19. JT Barrett was a guy that was going to run the ball a lot, but when it came down to it in the fourth quarter, he didn't miss. And that may be what happens this game. Will Howard runs more than normal. Then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, he has to be locked in and just sling that thing all around the yard, and he does it to perfection.
Yeah,
I don't think Will Howard's an elite passer. However, he can make big boy throws, and that might happen on Saturday. I'm trying to talk myself into this thing.
No,
Jeff. I've been nervous all week, man.
No, this is 100% a Will Howard game. And, to add to your, why are we not, more tight formations and get Egbuka down there and sneaking him out? Like every team in the, if I was, Chip Kelly or Ryan Day, I'd be watching teams like San Francisco 49ers all week, and or the Los Angeles Rams. Like, how do we bunch guys up and make things a little harder on the pass rushers, but then also get our athletes into space?
Other college football teams do it all the time.
It
doesn't make any sense why Ohio State doesn't.
Yeah, they play like they're. It's hard to explain. I know it's hard to talk out of both sides of my mouth. Like, they play like their skill level is too good to do that. Like, oh, we're not going to sink. We're going to run our offense, and they just need help right now in the middle. And I think this is definitely a Howard game. I think it's absolutely in sync. If you tell me, come Sunday morning, Ohio State beats Penn State, Will Howard is going to be the story of the game. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind. I don't see a world where you're going to tell me that, it was the running game or it was this or that. It's going to be a Will. And these Penn State games are always a quarterback game on both sides. On both sides, whoever wins this game, it's going to be a quarterback game because that's how close these programs are, and that's how they play each other. But I totally agree with and thing about running a quarterback, and is Coach Meyer, has some point. You don't have to get hit every time you run the ball. It doesn't have to be the Tim Tebow offense. It doesn't have to be that. But take what they give you. Will, if there's 20 yards, just take it.
Yeah.
And and defenses hate that. So it's all there. The possibilities are all there. What we all fear is that we're going to come out and it's going to look just like they're going to go 3 and out. The Buckeyes going 3 and out, I think, is honestly one of the biggest failures in college football every time I see it, with the skill that they have on offense. You go 5 and out, 6 and out, 7 and out, 3 and out, especially off a kickoff or a punt or something, is just absolutely inexcusable. So that's what we're worried. But yeah, again, we're saying the same thing. The talent's there, the skill's there. Will the mindset be there for Penn State? And I hate, I usually am the opposite, saying mentally they'll be ready. Are they going to be good enough? This is the team 100% is good enough to beat anybody in the country on a perfect day. Will their mindset be there? But again, it all good. Everything we've said in the show, it goes back to what did you do this week? Are your players in that mindset? Do they know the game plan? Will they execute it? And will that game plan work? Because they might, we blame the players a lot. They might execute a game plan. If that game plan's wrong, you lose. Oh yeah, we thought we were going to go empty, all game, and it didn't work. Yeah. That's not on the players. They're doing the play called. So a lot, I hope, a lot of this is on Howard's shoulder. I think he's ready. Howard has not wavered. He's the only reason they won last week. Here's what I keep saying about Howard. A backup quarterback's not winning a couple of these games. You know what I mean? So he's not the problem yet. And I don't think he will be. So It's just, just really lean into what you're good at right now, what you're good at right now. This is the week you lean. And Penn State's saying the same thing. We're going to lean in. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna play action you to death. And until you can stop us and try to bust long runs. We know what Penn State's going to do. Here's the advantage Ohio State does. You don't actually know it because of their skill level and because of their offense. You actually don't know exactly what they're going to do. They could come out and do some things to surprise you, but will it be the right things? So there's a lot of question marks going into this game.
Question marks is something that's been in my head all week. Of thinking about what Ohio State will do tomorrow in Happy Valley. And as we wrap up this show, I've had this number all week as far as my score prediction for this game. And I don't like saying this. I don't like saying this at all. I'm just going to show it on the screen for everyone watching right now on YouTube. I got Penn State 27. I got Ohio State 24. That has been something that's been out in the air on the YouTube all week. I don't have confidence that Ohio State's going to show up with the right mentality, with the right game plan specifically, and that Ryan Day is going to be able to do something in this spot that he should do. He's done it before. But for some reason, this year just doesn't seem like it's the right fit or something's off, and I don't know what it is. I don't have faith that Ohio State's going to win the game tomorrow. It's not because of talent. We talk about it all show. They have the talent. They got the quarterback. Their defense is taking strides in the right direction. They're getting guys off the bench that are thrust into bigger roles that are playing really good. I just don't know what's going on with this team's mentality. If they played angry, if they played nasty, they blow out Penn State.
Yeah.
And Penn State's good. This is not a knock saying Penn State's not good. That's just how good the talent is at Ohio State. But you can't win with talent alone. You can't blow out teams with talent alone. If that was the case, Ohio State would have smacked Nebraska. Because going into the game, I expected a little bit better from Nebraska. They're average, man. Like, Nebraska's an average football team. But what they're going to get, 6, maybe 7 wins, go to a bowl game. That's great for Matt Rule. Great for the program. I'm not knocking that. They're not on Ohio State's level. They're multiple tiers below Ohio State. Penn State's not on Ohio State's level, but Penn State's going to win tomorrow because they got some things that they can do. They also got a backup quarterback that will, if he plays a lot, will give Ohio State's defense fits. Because for some reason, the mobile quarterbacks, they just struggle with. I don't know what it is. I also have an issue. Yet that's really going to hurt Ohio State tomorrow. And I don't know if it's because Jack Sawyer and JT are taught their path to the quarterback is to go past the quarterback and to force him up. But when I watch NFL defensive ends, they get a certain depth and cut straight in.
Yeah.
And I don't know why these guys aren't taught this. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step drop. It doesn't matter. NFL defensive ends are taught, and Georgia guys, other schools around the country, they're taught, hey man, don't go past the quarterback. Like you want to flush them up inside the pocket. That's cool, but don't go past the quarterback. I don't know what they're taught, and that tactic alone, unless they change it, which I don't think they're going to, it's going to be one of the numerous reasons why Ohio State loses tomorrow in Happy Valley, and for the first time since 2016. Which was the Trace McSorley year. And Bo Perbula, their backup quarterback, gives me Trace McSorley vibes. Maybe that's why I'm leaning Penn State. I don't know, but it's mainly because I just don't have faith in Ohio State right now in this game. I think they'll win more games down the road, but I don't want to think of this thing spiraling after tomorrow because if this thing spirals out of control, Jeff, you're looking at a potential Indiana loss, a potential loss to Michigan once again, and then a potential loss in the bowl game. Yeah, it's not a good look for Ryan Day, man. That's how guys get fired.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. Again, not to pile on, but I do think that all the problems on the offensive line show up early. I think Ohio State gets in a hole. They probably start figuring it out maybe a little too late. I think the crowd, for some reason, normally I wouldn't say this, but I think the crowd does affect this team. I think the pressure is starting to affect this team. Again, they're the ones that told us natty or bust. We didn't say that. I mean, Ohio State fans always believe that. Every year Ohio State fans believe that. So don't blame us for, the pressure. Like if you come to Ohio State, you're playing for a national title. So if the pressure is too much, that's something you got to deal with. Or if you can't deal with the expectations of the new form of, college football. These are all things that we can't, nobody can help you with. Like, that's a mental preparedness. Them getting rattled at Oregon by the crowd really shook me. And then, going into Happy Valley, I got it 32-24 Penn State. And
Ooh.
mainly because I just don't think they'll come out ready and prepared. And by the time they make adjustments, it might be too little, too late. I don't even necessarily know they're going to play a bad game, but sometimes if I'm just in a vacuum and I take my fandom out of it and I'm looking at this game, I'm like, that's my call on the game. If we were talking about, Tennessee, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, whatever, generic teams, I would still feel this way. Just about, like, I just think that Penn State is healthier up front, and I just think they have a little bit more of an identity. Do I think that Penn State can blow Ohio State out? I don't, but they don't have to. They can win in overtime, or they can win in the fourth quarter. That's going to be their identity. Do I think, again, is Penn State as good? They're really not. That's what's the shame of this is going to be. I hope we're proven wrong, and hope the next time we talk, we're like, man, what dummies we are. We really drank the Kool-Aid. But again, there's no way I can watch the last week's game and come away saying, like, oh yeah, that's a national championship team. They're definitely. We're talking about a national championship contender in Penn State. So what we're saying is, you got to beat a playoff team. Well, why would I think after what they did to Nebraska they could beat a playoff team?
Jeff, I appreciate you for coming on the show, man. It's always fun,
man,
chopping it up and talking Ohio State ball. We both hope we're wrong. We're not just podcasters. We're also fans of this team. We both hope we're wrong. But right now, we're both leaning for Penn State to win this game. What are your thoughts? Do you think Ohio State's going to win? Do you think Penn State's going to win? What's your score prediction? Drop it on the YouTube comment section, and let's have a little conversation today, this evening, tomorrow morning about this game where Ohio State has a talent to win. I don't think they're going to. You can follow Jeff on Twitter at jhunt006. Follow me on the same platform at jstevens07. We're out of here, Buckeye fans, on a Feel Good Friday, and we are hoping we feel good at the end of this game tomorrow. Go Bucks.